This is the Real Talk Radio Show, and I am your host, Devlin James. What's going on, folks? It's been a while since I produced a video. Had a lot of events take place within the last couple of weeks, one of which included a motorcycle accident, where some douchebag just cut me off and kept going. I got to experience my first ambulance ride, complete with a brief stay at the local general hospital. Long story short, I'm fine, no broken bones, and the bike is not too badly banged up. But people still suck. Anyway, I wanted to make a video on a subject that's very close to me. And I wanted to share some of my own personal experiences growing up to further validate the facts I'll be presenting. I'll also be modifying the format of my videos going forward so that you're not just looking at a drawing of an old-time radio as you listen to me talk. The subject of the video is going to be single mothers and how they fail at raising their sons to successfully take their place in this world. The purpose of the video is not to attack single black mothers. I just want to present facts that will hopefully wake some of them up. I also want to help the men listening who come from these single-parent homes to realize that they need to desperately reprogram the way they think about themselves and the way they view life if they ever hope to get anywhere in this world. When I was around the age of 5, my mother would always sing this nursery rhyme to me. Little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Little boys were made of, well, honestly, I can't remember that part of it. It was either snails and tails, or toads, snakes, turds. Whatever the case, it wasn't pleasant. As harmless as that little nursery rhyme may seem to have been, it was a subtle form of negative programming. In repeating it to me time after time, my mother was planting a seed. She was programming my mind to think a certain way when it was in the early stages of development. So, what was she telling me through that nursery rhyme? Basically, women are sweet, pleasant, and made up of all things good, while boys were basically made of crap. Now, in my case, the nursery rhyme by itself wasn't so bad, but when you add other forms of negative reinforcement, like statements such as "you're worthless" or "you're an idiot," then you have an issue. Now you have a situation where a mother is setting her own son up to fail by programming him to look at himself in a negative way. The first major way that single mothers set their sons up to fail is by breaking their spirits from their youth. They do this by chipping away at their child's self-esteem with their constant negative reinforcement. Ultimately, they make their sons feel weak, inferior, and insignificant as men. Why do they do this? It could be for a number of reasons. Personally, I believe that most of them harbor a great deal of resentment towards their child for being born, even though the child didn't have a damn thing to do with their birth or with selecting the type of man that their mother chose to get impregnated by. But yet and still, they blame their sons and put them through hell. A second reason is because these women are clinically insane. Why else would a person try to emotionally and psychologically destroy a child that they helped give life to? Why would they single-handedly try to dismantle someone who will ultimately continue their legacy when they're gone? I have a friend whose mother used to beat him until he bled, simply because he was the spitting image of his father. Now that's a woman with some serious mental issues. I can almost understand why the father didn't bother sticking around. Another reason some mothers do this is because they know that down the road, when that boy develops into a young man, they won't be able to control or discipline him anymore. It's like owning a lion cub, and you know that someday that cub is going to grow into an adult lion. He'll be too big and too powerful for her to control at that point. She can't let this child grow up to be a threat to her. So she has to break him down at a young age and brainwash him into thinking he's weak and ineffective. In the end, you have an adult lion with a kitty cat mentality. Would you say that this is the mentality of some of today's black men? The bottom line is that women cannot raise boys to become men in this world. Period. How can they? They don't think like a man does. Their bodies don't even produce the same type of hormones. I know in and of myself, I can never raise a daughter single-handedly. When she starts going through puberty and has her period, then has to wear tampons, what the hell am I going to tell her? A menstrual cycle is something I will never experience in my own life. Thank God. Plus, I don't think or reason the same way a young woman does. And my body doesn't produce estrogen. That's why it kills me when I hear single mothers declaring that they can raise their sons on their own. Or saying stupid shit like, I am both the mother and the father. You can't raise boys on your own. You can't. Just look at the present state of the black community. 72% of African American children are raised in single-parent homes. 72%. And 78% of the kids from these homes end up in prison. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why our community is in shambles. Boys need men to show them how to be men. They don't need mothers to break their spirits at a young age, so they end up being ineffective in all they do and try to accomplish when they get older. Most of the single mothers in today's society can't help but see their sons as burdens instead of blessings. So aside from beating them down and breaking their spirits, they also ignore and alienate them. Again, this comes from the bitterness of having to raise that child on their own. What happens is that they tend to push the child away as they work or do whatever they can to provide for him. What these women don't understand is their actions are going to have an adverse effect on that child as he gets older. That child is in the crucial stages of development. This is when they start doing those so annoying things like asking their mother's 21 questions every 10 minutes, following them around like little shadows, trying to get their attention every second to show them the latest things they did. This will be overwhelming for one parent to deal with. So the mother may tell her son to shut up, go away, or leave her alone. Or worse, she may abuse and curse at that child. Children identify themselves with the world through their parents, so it should come as no surprise that they will try to interact with their parents as much as possible. So for the single mothers out there, you are the only source they see to fulfill that need. And when they ask you all those annoying ass questions, all they're trying to do is acquire knowledge through you. When your boys follow you around like little shadows, they're usually seeking affection. And finally, when they keep trying to draw your attention to the little things they do during the course of the day, they're looking for your affirmation. They want to know from an early stage that their actions are noticed and they count. They are also trying to develop their social and communication skills. When you cut them off from doing this at an early stage, This results with the boy feeling rejected by the only person he identifies himself with the world through, his mother. And this will have lasting sociological and psychological effects in the way this boy views himself in relation to the rest of the world. It will also affect his relationship with other women. Take a look at the rapper DMX, if you want a practical example of what I'm talking about. His mother put him through hell and abandoned him. Do you see the damage that woman's actions caused in his life? I'm going to close this video off after this final example I want to add from my own life. This goes with showing how important it is for a boy to get encouragement and affirmation from his parents when he's young, because it not only will ultimately affect his life, but it could also affect his community. One of the greatest things my mother ever did for me was buy me a computer when I was young. It was a Commodore 128. Just to give you guys an idea of how old I am. One thing I've observed about women is that they tend to take on the philosophy of the men they deal with. And at the time, she was with her first husband, who was a good man. I loved that computer, and I was intrigued with video games. I remember, though, that I wasn't just satisfied with playing them. I wanted to make my own game. And at the time, she was very encouraging. Well, for some reason, good guys don't last in the lives of too many women. So out he went, and in came this new boyfriend with a high-profile position at a corporation. For whatever reason, he didn't care too much for me, and he let me know on many occasions. At this time, though, I had a newer computer, and I would study this book on the basic language of programming. Well, I ended up making a video game through that program when I was in my freshman year of high school. It was a functioning game with a superhero that flew around. Major accomplishment for a kid, right? Well, when my mother saw it and saw the work I put in it, she told me I was wasting my time. At that time, her boyfriend was influencing her strongly. But in spite of what she told me, I tried to keep at it for some time. But when I hit my first real brick wall, I dropped it in a second. Mark Zuckerberg, whom all of you should know, is the creator of Facebook. I read a brief bio on his life. He showed an interest in programming when he was young. His father quickly hired a tutor to start teaching him programming. You know the rest of the story. He created a billion-dollar company, created jobs and opportunities for a number of different people, and they still seem to be building. Do I really need to say anything more? It should come as no surprise to anyone why the black race is regressing and we have no hopes of moving forward. If Mark Zuckerberg grew up in a household headed by a black single mother, with all of his talents, all of his abilities, and his vision, chances are that he'd be nothing more than a crackhead in today's society. Once again, thank you for watching. This is Devlin James. Please feel free to comment on this video. Share your thoughts, because this is a subject that needs to be discussed. Please share this video with your friends, and if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. More videos to come.